right, let's get started. How's everyone doing today? Great. My name is Chen, and today I'll be talking about how you can use FBT to internationalize your JavaScript app. For the past few years, at Facebook, I've been working on internationalization. Our team enables all the product team at Facebook to localize their products into the different languages that our user understand. So our user will have a seamless experience connecting with their family and friends that they care about. One of the projects that I work on and is very proud of is FBT. So what is FBT? If you have already attended John's talk earlier, you may already have learned that FBT is a internationalization framework designed for JavaScript. It works with React, React Native, JSX, and plain JavaScript. It's designed to be both powerful and complex, but it's also very simple and intuitive to use. It allows you to create translatable and grammatically correct sentences in line and extract these sentences right from your source code, and eventually it allows the easy runtime lookup to render correct translations. So in this case, let's see how we can use, today I'm going to talk about how we can use FBT to incorporate that into the app. And FBT is widely used at Facebook. So for almost all the JavaScript services, including web and React Native. And at the beginning of this year, we're actually really excited to be able to release this on GitHub as an open source project to share with the developer community. Now I'm going to do a live demo to show you how you can use FBT to internationalize your app. Before we do that, if you already followed the instruction and did the step to set up your environment, that's awesome. You can follow along and try it yourself. If not, that's totally fine. I'll try to explain everything clearly. And then if you still have questions or you get stuck and having issues, that's fine as well. We will be at the open source booth after this talk, so feel free to visit us and talk to us. All right, now I'm going to switch to my laptop. So as you can see, currently, I'll just leave the instruction on top in case anyone needs it. And currently, we are in the FBT open source repo. You might want to do a git pull if you haven't pulled for a while. But we'll first run some commands to start up the demo app. Let's go to the F8 demo app folder. And we need to run we need to build it. This will build the main.js bundle with the current code in place. And it's finished now. And we run yarn start. This step will actually start a Webpack server and pop up a browser for you. All right, so now you can see we have this simple demo. The UI is not the prettiest, but it serves the purpose. This demo is actually interactive, so you can actually have a name. For example, John has shared a photo with you. Maybe John likes to take photos. He has tons of photos. Let's say maybe he has a lot of photos to share. So, and the second sentence here is someone. We can also put a name in there, and you can have different objects to display here. And now, this is all in English, right? You might be wondering, how do I localize this app with FBT? Now, let's dive into the code and see how we can do it. All right, so the code we're interested in is located in the source folder, source example, and example.react.js. And when you just open that with your favorite IDE or text editor. And we can see that there's a bunch of code. Let's scroll to the important part. And on the line 104, so we have a plain text, your FBT demo. This corresponds to this title here. And we have a bunch of other headers and other stuff like instructions. So the first step we're going to do is let's comment out this and convert this into FBT. This is apparently the JSX text. And we start with FBT, and the child of the tag is simply the English text that you want to display. And one of the most important attributes for FBT tags is description. And for description, we recommend you to have really good description, very comprehensive, to give as much context as you can to the translator. So because we found out under different contexts, the same English text can be translated differently in different languages. In this way, we can assure that we will have a better quality translation if we have a really good description. So you probably noticed this is a really, really bad example. Don't do that. And this is just for the purpose of demo, so the code is concise. And now we have this FBT. We have made our first FBT call. And let's look at how we can actually incorporate that, or how we can extract this out to make them available for translation. Let's go back to the command line. We need to run collect step. As you can see, it shows you what command it actually runs. But what's interesting for us is this, the source strings.json. This is the output. If we take a look, now if we compare that with the code we just wrote, you can see that it has one text extracted, and it's your FBT demo. And it has a bunch of other metadata, for example, where the code is, which file, and also has the description. So you can actually send this out for translation. Let's go ahead and just convert all of these into FBT. As you can see, FBT is also available in the function form, so that the first parameter is the text, and the second one is description. We also have an optional third one where you can pass in some options. And we'll just continue and convert all of these, and we saved it. Now we run collect script again. So, and wait for a little bit. Now as you can see, we have three strings extracted from this file. So these are all the FBT that we defined. Now, before I came into this demo, I actually pre-translated all the strings that we're going to use today. So I already have a translation in here. Now let's see how we can actually incorporate the translation into the app so it's able to do the runtime lookup and find the correct translation. Let's just run this translate FBT step. And as you can see, the command that you actually ran here, it takes these translations, a bunch of JSON files as simple. These are basically, for each language, you will have a JSON file that will map from the FBT to the translations. You might be wondering, how do we map it? So as you can see, for the strings we extracted, there's a hash that comes with it. A hash will uniquely identify your string. The hash is generated from the text and description of your FBT call. So this means if any of these change even for a tiny little bit, the hash will be different. So let's look at this file. This is the output that eventually will be used by FBT runtime to do the runtime lookup and give you the correct translation. For example, here we have Arabic, Spanish, and Hebrew, and Japanese. So these are the strings that we just extracted. These are the simple cases, but you might be wondering, why do I have this, this is not a text for Hebrew. What's happening here? Because for Hebrew, it's actually depending on the gender of the person you are addressing to, you will use different words. So in this case, depending on the gender of the user, we will have different translations. So FBT automatically handles this for you. So it will actually, based on as long as you set the gender of the user, it will actually display the correct translations. So now let's actually rebuild the app and see how this works. We run build. So it will rebuild the main.js bundle, incorporate the translations into the app, and let's restart the server. In any second. Cool. So English is just at 0, like as before, it's the same, but now the top 3 sentences are translated into different languages. For example, for Hebrew, if we just set the gender, you can see it will give you different translations. So in this way, by the way, Hebrew is also right to left, if you haven't noticed. All right, so these are all the simple cases, right? What if I have variables in the sentence that I want to be replaced at runtime, for example, a name? Let's see how we can do that. We just scroll down to the part where we actually displayed this sentence. Actually, let's go back to English for now. For example, for this sentence, John has shared a photo with you. Maybe I'll give a number. So as you can see, John is a variable here, and also in this case, for English, you will have a problem because if the count is 1, you will have different spelling. It will be photo. If the count is more than 1 or 0, you will use photos, right? And let's see how we can handle that with FBT. And this is only for English, remember. For other languages, for example, Russian or Arabic, they have way more than 2 plural forms. I think Arabic has up to 6. So FBT will be able to handle all of that for you. And this is, as you can see, this is normally how you would do it in English. But this doesn't work for other languages because we are branching on, let me make it bigger so you can see them. We are branching on the count, but we are only making the distinction whether this is 1 or not. This is not going to work in some other languages. Let's see how we can make this work with FBT. We comment this out and here. I know it's a little bit complicated, this example, but I'll walk you through it. So we just, this is still another bad description. Don't do that. And because we're introducing a variable now, we have to use FBT param. So FBT param will allow you to insert a variable which at runtime it will be replaced by the actual value of the variable. And we can name the parameter just name, and we can even pass in gender to it in case this is a name. Because in some languages, the translation will be different depending on the gender of the subject. All right, and then we continue the sentence, has shared, and then now we encounter the plural case where basically we have to handle the plural for all the languages. And we can use FBT plural for this. And for the FBT plural tag, the child is simply the singular form that you want to display in English. In this case, it's a photo. And we can define the attributes and define the many cases here. In our case, it's photos. And we can decide, in this case, we want to show count because, for example, if the count is simply 1, we already said it's a photo, which we already defined in here. So we don't want to show count if it's singular. And we only show count if it's plural. So we choose if many, and then we have to pass in the count, of course. And then we continue the sentence and finish the FBT tag. Now we save this. And as you can see, we have hot reloading in here, so everything stays the same because it tries to display the same sentence. And then now I can show you what we do, what the extraction does. So we run collect FBTs. Now we inspect the output again. Now you can see, in addition to the original 3 strings that we defined, there are 2 more strings that we collected from the FBT call. So as you can see, name is wrapped by the curly braces. This represents this is a token that will be replaced at runtime by the runtime value. And this is the singular case. It doesn't have a second token, but then for this one, the plural case actually has a second token, which will be replaced by a number at runtime. And if we go down and look at the GS FBT entry, here you will see a pretty complex structure. If you notice that the other sentences, the GS FBT is really simple because what we're building here is the runtime dictionary that will be used by FBT to look up the translation. In this case, it's more like English text. As you can see, it's a nested dictionary. The first level represents the gender because we passed the gender into the FBT call. But for English, actually, our text doesn't depend on gender. So we only have 1 entry. It's the star, which means it's a default. And on the second level, we have 2 entries here. One represents the singular case, another represents the plural case. In other languages, you might see more cases here because there will be more plural cases. Now, we've collected everything, and let's translate the FBT and run the app again. We just rebuild it because we have to incorporate the translation back into the app. And let's start a server. All right, now it's the same thing, but then other languages, it's translated into, now it's translated basically because I have this already pre-translated. And now let's look at the next example. So the next example is actually pretty interesting because in this case, sometimes you have a portion of the text in the sentence that you want to maybe have a different object to display, but you don't. But you will have identical sentences, except for that. So, for example, John has a link to sharing maybe a page or a photo or a post. So basically, it's like you will have an enumeration of different objects. And let me show you how we can do this with the FBT API. We go back to the code and scroll down and find the part that does this. So this is how you would do it with plain text. Basically, you have two variables, and you have an enum. This enum is basically an enum module that defines all the different objects that you want to put into their sentence. But let's see how we can do that with FBT to make it localizable. I'll just comment out this part and then uncomment this. So it's similar to all the other FBTs we had before. You need to have a description. And now also we have a name at the beginning. So we use FBT param again. For the ease of demonstration, I didn't pass in the gender this time. And we just keep going with the sentence. And now we encounter the FBT enum. So in this way, we can pass in the module of the enum. So it knows all the range of all the values in here. And then, of course, we have to actually pass in the runtime value so you know which one to display. And it actually we have this written in FBT, and you can see the website already reloaded. So it's the same thing. And we can actually display different objects. And let me show you how these tags will be collected. So I'm just going to queue the server for now, and then we run the collect script again. So now we are actually, before running that, we need to run the manifest step, which basically it will look for all the enums that you have, and it will create a map. So during the collection phase, we will know all the ranges. And since we already ran, I'm going to actually run collect again. So let's look at the output now. And reload it. And now you can see there are 5 strings generated because we have five objects to display. There are 5 values in the enum. And of course, at runtime, we have to look up the different tags based on the value or key rather than the key of the enum. All right, let's make this example a little bit more complex. So comment this out and uncomment the next block. Cool. I know this is a little bit intimidating, but I'll make sure I'll walk you through it. Let me show you what this looks like first after it's displayed. We're going to collect it. Actually, we don't have to translate it. We just build it, and we restart the server. Should finish in any second, and we start. So this will restart the server with the new FBT we just defined. And all right, so we'll use John as an example again. So you can see that now we have this sentence actually has two display. It has the object appears twice in the sentence, like the link appears twice, and if it's a page, it will appear twice in the sentence. And we actually have a pronoun here, view their page. But the John I know, its gender is male, so I'm going to choose his gender, and we're going to use male. So we can say view his page, right? Now I can show you how we can use FBT to achieve this easily. So at the beginning, we have a param because we have a name, and then we encounter this FBT enum that we talked about. It will basically enumerate for all the values, and then we continue the sentence. And here we actually have to use FBT pronoun to provide different kinds of pronoun. For example, our type of pronoun is the possessive pronoun. You can also specify that as subject, object, or reflexive. And we have to pass in the gender, and we have to specify whether this represents a human because there's also a distinction in there. And next, we encounter another FBT enum call. This is where it gets interesting because we have to make sure that these two enums are linked because you basically have to display the same object twice in there. FBT enum is actually smart enough to tell, okay, I depend on the same module and I depend on the same runtime value. In this case, it will not create unnecessary strings for you. For example, if FBT enum doesn't know about the other enum existence, it will create something like John has a page to share, view his post, which doesn't make sense in this sentence. And in this way, we actually can display this sentence. Now, you might be wondering, okay, what if I want to style up some part of my text? Everything I've seen now is just plain text. There's no styles in it, right? Let me show you how we can do that. And we'll just uncomment this part of the code. All right. And as you can see, now we have basically, I'll put the name back. Okay, so some part of the tag is styled up. For example, like John, the name is bold and blue now, and view, it might be a link, but here is just a fake link. So what gets interesting here is that we know which part we want to style up in English, right? But how do you know once it's translated? The text will be different. In some languages, it's even right to left. How do you know that? So FBT will actually be able to mark it for you so that when you send them out for translation, translator can do it and it will see the marker and it will translate them correctly. And the marker will be replaced by the actual value. Let me show you how that's done. So here we have the FBT enum and the child of, FBT param, and the child of param doesn't have to be variable. You can have styles in there as well. You can have other JSS tags. And we go ahead, we have this enum, it's the same as before, and then we encounter this view. So in this case, you would just inline your styles as you would normally do with like JSX or React, and FBT will be able to figure out, oh, okay, this is not a plain text, it's something that I need to apply style. So when I extract this, well, I'll mark this part of string so that it can be translated correctly. And when the translation gets back to us, we can do runtime replacement and display the correct translations. All right, so let me show you actually how the collection works to be more clear. And we just run collect FBTs. And all right, so as you can see, this is what we have just collected. There are 15 of them because we have 5 different values in our enum, and there are also 3 different pronouns that we need to display. So in total, we generated 15 strings with just one FBT call. So you don't have to write tons of repeated code in here. And you also notice because there's a style applied to view, like the view, and we have replaced it with the token. So FBT will put it as a token, and this means this token will be replaced by another FBT at runtime. For example, if we go down, we can see another string that's extracted. So we'll actually send both of these out for translation. And if you when the translator translates them back, and we put both of these translations back into FBT, and then FBT will be able to know that and render the correct text. And let me show you how we can do that. So, and then since I have everything pre-translated, I'll run the translate FBTs again. And I'll actually need to rebuild it because we have a new translation payload now. And it should finish in any second. And I'll just, start it. Right, now you can see in English, these parts are bolded, and in other languages, the correct parts are also bolded. So for example, all right. Now I'm gonna switch back to my slides. Sorry. Could you switch me back to the slides? All right, so this concludes a live demo of FBT. If you want to learn more about FBT or try to start use it, feel free to visit our GitHub repository and the documentation. If you also have questions or want to talk to us, we'll be at the open source booth. And thank you all for coming. Enjoy the rest of FA.
If you believe in love,